Hey. So I want to go in depth about this story that I read on Facebook, and it was really all striking to hear this story. It was mentioned in the Impractical Blacksmith things on Sundays. I actually heard this story Saturday before. I missed the blacksmith church thing with Yamez and Alexis and that other fella, Alan with asparagus forge, I think is what it is. Anyhow, so I kind of missed that, but Adam did tell me that love you, dude. He did mention the story, so I kind of want to go in a little bit of depth about the story because there's some things there that a lot of people wouldn't notice. Now, I got this story from Bill Corey. If you don't know who Bill Corey is, shame on you. Shame on you. The man's a legend. He's the only blacksmith I know that makes tongs that nobody can use. And I don't mean that in a rude sense or anything. He's literally got tongs that not even he can use because they're all forge welded shut. Yeah, it's pretty neat design. It's like an infinity loop. But anyhow, yeah, Bill Corey, a legend, man, a myth, the man, the myth, the legend. So Bill Corey, born in 1863 in a coal mine in Pennsylvania, in the coal mine. They said that his amniotic sac was forge scale, and the amniotic fluid that was inside of it that made him survive while he was growing from a fetus was anhydrous borax. Just absolutely insane. And then the miner that went to slap him on the butt to get him to cry said he had two birthmarks, one on each cheek, a hammer and an anvil. I like messing with Bill. All right, bud. Don't get too mad at me. All right. So anyhow, yeah, he sent me that after he did this amazing rendition of it, and right in the middle of lunch, we were sitting there eating, and all of a sudden he just starts, and I wasn't sure what was going on at first because you never know what you're gonna get with Bill. Um, but it turned into this just amazing story, and I looked at Troy. I said, I kind of see where he's going with this, and then it really started to ramping up. But it was an epic story, and loved it to death. Really caught the essence of a blacksmith. So I'm not going to read the story now because I tried on Facebook. I kind of botched it. I just can't do it like Bill did it. And I wish that he would record himself doing it and post it on YouTube here. But anyhow, just kind of give you a in a nutshell, this guy, this guy, King Solomon from the Bible, son of David, the king that, well, King David wanted to make a permanent temple, but he never got to. Solomon did. And Solomon is known as the wisest king, but it's not because he finished the temple. It's because of he had to do some judging at one time, and there was these two women, and both of them had babies, and they lived together. And one rolled on top of the other one in the middle of the night and suffocated to death. So she tried to steal the other baby, and the two women come up arguing. Solomon had no clue what to do, how to handle it, or anything. So he went and he prayed to God, and God said, this is what he prayed for. Hey, he said, give me the wisdom to lead my people. And God was so proud of him at that point. So God told Solomon, he said, you could have asked for anything and I would have gave it to you. You're the lineage of David. David was the God appointed king, not the elected king by the people, but God appointed king. So anyhow, he said, I would have given you anything you wanted. But since you've been so selfless and asked for wisdom to lead your people, you will be the wisest and you will be blessed like no other king has been blessed. And man was. I mean, he had thousands of horses. Downfall of every man in power is a woman, usually. And I mean, he had several wives, several princesses, several concubines. But regardless, he was the wisest king. I don't think he would have been the wisest if he had more than one wife. But anyhow, so just putting that. Now, there was a painting in 1863 called The Ironworker in King Solomon. And I want you to pay attention to that title and how it's put forth. The Ironworker in King Solomon. So King Solomon had a higher authority than the ironworker. Usually, in proper English, firewood. I need to make some firewood. But anyhow, usually the person with the higher title, king, governor, whatever, is usually put first. But if you'll notice, he was the highest authority. The author put him second to the ironworker. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is, let's really think about it. If it hadn't have been for the blacksmith, did they have blacksmiths back then? Well, in Genesis, it talks about Tiabal. I think the name is Tiabal Cain. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Um, being a blacksmith. That's all the way back in Genesis. So, you know, yeah, they had blacksmiths back then. But if the blacksmith didn't make the tools and to build the stuff, the swords and the axes and the knives and the shields and everything that was needed to protect themselves as well as wage war and do what they needed to, they would have never had a nation. So yeah, the, the king had kind of a side shit to the blacksmith, because if it wasn't for the blacksmith, he would have never been able to make it. You know. But so anyhow, um, it is mentioned in Isaiah 54:16 as well. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. God said, I created the blacksmith. Not that we learned to do it, he created the blacksmith. Not that I taught you to do it or sent somebody to teach you to do it. I just created them. Bam, they're there. All right. And that was probably Mr. Cain back in Genesis. But anyhow, who taught everybody afterwards. But anyhow, that's one thing to notice, is that the iron worker and Solomon, not King Solomon and our work, but the iron worker and Solomon. Now, Solomon says some things in there. So there's a point in that story where, Solomon says, hey, what manner of you that comes in here so rudely and unbidden or uninvited? And the blacksmith says, hey, when men want to honor me, they call me son of the forge. But when they want to, talk bad about me, they call me blacksmith. And he said, although the latter is inapt, or meaning insufficient, he said, I desire no better. And so very humble attitude and whatnot. But later on, after these guys start tearing him down and saying, this man never helped to build a temple, he don't deserve to be here at this feast. Uh, the blacksmith, Solomon looks at him and says, what says you to this, son of the forge? Why shouldn't I have you grabbed up by your beard, beaten and scourged and drug across and then stoned out here for being in here when you aren't even supposed to be in here? You're not any of these craftsmen. These guys have done said that you ain't part of them. And the blacksmith says, hey, you're right. These guys are right. I ain't part of them. I'm better than them. Yeah, it's because of me that they're here. It's because of me that they can do the things they do. And he looked at each of the ones and said, he said, hey, you sculptor. You said I'm not a sculptor, and I'm not. But who made the tools for you to be able to sculpt? And the guy said, blacksmith. So he asked all of them that. And their answer was the blacksmith. Their meant was to dishonor him by calling him blacksmith. But you see, it didn't bother him. He was just that humble. But the king, being the wisest king ever, called him son of the forge. That there is something else to think about. So I just wanted to throw some of those little nuggets out there about the story. There's more that you can really, if you look at it from a different perspective and a different angle and kind of read between the lines, that you'll notice these little things. So, yep, that's pretty much it. This was also a test to see if this microphone was going to work worth a crap. But I hope that was somewhat enlightening. If you haven't seen the story, you should look it up. The book was written in 1896. The painting was made in 1863. The book was written in 1896 by Joseph Harrison Jr. It's entitled The Iron Worker and King Solomon. There's a couple renditions of this story. One where the blacksmith comes home, he's talking to his wife, and he said, man, you ain't gonna believe what they was saying about me in there. But there is this particular original called The Blacksmith and Solomon. And that is, I think, the second part to it, and I think there's a third part to it. Very interesting read, and like I said, bug Bill Corey to record himself doing this, because it was freaking epic. Ask Kenny over there at Metal Man. Ask any of them guys. Ask Troy. It was really amazing. He had the perfect voice for that. And I think he came over there and sat with us after that and said something about, I told him, I said, man, I wish you'd make a tape of the, reading the Bible. You just got an awesome voice for it. Kind of strange being he sounds like Hank Hill, but when he's really into something energetic. It's just the way he projects his voice. He just did an awesome job. Anyhow, hope y'all enjoyed. I hope that enlightened you a little bit, something to think about. I'm not going to read you the story. Go download it and read it yourself. It's a pretty awesome story. Y'all be well, be safe, love, peace, and chicken grease.